Thanks for joining us on Plus TV Africa. I'm Benga Aborowa. A senator representing Kwara South Senatorial District in the National Assembly, Rafiu Ibrahim, has said a team of senior legal experts will handle the allegations of complicity in the offer robbery saga leveled against the President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, by the police. The police have insisted that Saraki is needed to make certain clarifications on the statement of the suspects arrested in connection with the robbery, despite the legal advice from the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, which absolved the Senate President of any complicity in the act. Ibrahim said, and I quote, "The Senate President has a very strong legal team of many senior advocates of Nigeria who are already working on the issue. He has a legal issue with the police and he will take the case up legally." His declaration came on the heels of the insistence of the force PRO, Moshood Jimoh, that Saraki still has a case to answer, notwithstanding the fact that a team of investigators grilled the Senate President last week in his office. The All Progressive Congress has questioned Benue Governor Samuel Ortom's claim of spending 22 billion naira received from the federal government on provision of security. The governor's claim of spending so much on security in the state raises more questions, Mr. Adams Oshomole, chairman of the APC, said on Friday. The party expressed concern that though the governor claimed to have spent such huge money on security, but the people were more insecure. He said Ortom was making political gain on the security situation in the state after allegedly spending heavily on security. Oshomole said that it was unfortunate that while President Muhammadu Buhari had been to other states to commission projects, there has been none to commission in Benue. He said that the Benue governor, when asked to defend himself following the accusations against him, could not give any reasonable explanation. The embattled Speaker of the Benue State House of Assembly, Mr. Terkimbi Ikiange, has been restrained by the State High Court from parading himself as leader of the lawmakers. The Chief Judge of Benue State, Justice Adam Onum, on Friday granted an ex parte order of interim restraining the impeached Speaker. Also, his deputy, James Okefe Ejembi, and the former Majority Leader, Benjamin Tili Adani, were also ordered by the court to stop parading themselves as principal officers of the State Assembly, pending the determination of a suit filed by 22 lawmakers. Ikiange had earlier rejected his impeachment, declaring the process illegal. He said he believes the lawmakers are bent on destroying the legislature. Justice Onum said the decision to restrain the Speaker, his deputy, and majority leaders followed a motion filed by 22 lawmakers. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakub, said that vote buying in elections by agents of political parties in the country was scary. The INEC chairman also said that the commission may be forced to consider alternative sources of funding for the 2019 elections if the National Assembly failed to consider to pass the supplementary budget of 242 billion naira, which was sent to the National Assembly before they proceeded on annual vacation. Speaking at the biannual retreat of the State House Correspondents hosted by Lagos State Government in Ekpe Resorts yesterday, the INEC boss assured that next year's elections will be the best ever in the country. While making reference to the ongoing amendment of the Electoral Act pending in the National Assembly, he said that any law that was not passed 6 months before the elections was null and void. 46-year-old Emeka Nduku, a Nigerian-American based in Bowie, Maryland, has been sentenced to 4 years in prison for engaging in business email scheme and conspiring to launder more than $900,000 proceeds of scams. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, in a statement, said Nduku tricked 7 companies in the United States and abroad into wiring more than $900,000 into accounts controlled by various co-conspirators, the FBI said. Nduku, a dual citizen of the United States and Nigeria, pleaded guilty in April 2018 in the U.S. District Court of the District of Columbia to 1 count of money laundering conspiracy. He was sentenced by the Honorable Timothy J. Kelly. Following his prison term, he will be placed on 3 years of supervised release. The judge also ordered Nduku to pay $791,870 in restitution to the companies. Additionally, Judge Kelly ordered Nduku to forfeit a 2014 Mercedes-Benz GL 450 and pay a forfeiture money judgment in the amount of $429,848, representing the share of the criminal proceeds that Nduku personally obtained. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said on Friday that a private meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin this week ended with an agreement that the two countries' governments would discuss a nuclear power deal in the future. Ramaphosa told Putin that South Africa could not proceed with the nuclear expansion for now because the economy was not performing optimally. President Putin, on the other hand, said he is open to begin talks once South Africa is ready. Researchers in Sierra Leone have found a new strain of the Ebola virus, the government said. The virus was discovered in bats in the northern Bombali region by scientists in the United States West African study funded by USAID. The findings come 2 years after the end of the worst ever Ebola outbreak that killed more than 11,000 people in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Researchers, however, say the new Bombali virus is distinct from other Ebola virus strains, and it's not yet known whether it could develop into the deadly disease. Voters in Mali head to the polls to select a president amidst increasing attacks by extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. Voters have expressed concerns about being targeted by Al-Qaeda's Mali branch, warned against going to the polls. Deadly communal clashes between ethnic groups and accusations of heavy-handed counter-terror operations have also complicated what President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta hopes will be a victory for him, giving him a second term in office. Keïta came into power in 2013 and faces 23 candidates in the first round. His main challenger, Soumaïla Cissé, has criticized the president for not addressing Mali's rising insecurity. While Malians are on the poll ready to choose a new president, Zimbabweans, on the other hand, will cast their votes on Monday in the first election since longtime leader Robert Mugabe was forced to resign in November. More than 5 million Zimbabweans are registered to vote on Monday in the general elections amidst tight presidential contest. A candidate must get at least 50% of all votes to win the presidency, or it will be decided by a runoff on the 8th of September. Malawian President Saulos Chilima has quit the ruling party and plans to run for president. He says his administration would investigate alleged corruption amongst officials of the current government, and anyone at fault will not be spared. The impoverished South African nation has been rocked by corruption scandals over the last decade, and the issue has resurfaced in the run-up to the national elections next year. Chilima, who quit the ruling Democratic Progressive Party last week in protest at alleged corruption, is seen as the biggest threat to President Peter Mutharika in 2019 polls for president, parliament, and ward councillors. He has vowed to prosecute anyone guilty of corruption charges if he gets into the office as president. When we return, we'll bring you the latest developments around the world. Don't go away. And on the foreign scene, at least 14 people have been killed after a magnitude 6.4 earthquake hit Indonesia's Lombok Island. At least 14 people are dead and 162 injured after a powerful 6.4 magnitude earthquake this morning struck the popular tourist destination of Lombok in Indonesia, the country's disaster mitigation agency said. The earthquake struck at 6:47 a.m. on Sunday and was only 7 kilometers deep, a shallow depth that would have amplified its effect, the U.S. Geological Survey said. And in business, ExxonMobil has recorded a second quarter revenue of $73.5 billion. This was against the $2.58 billion estimated by analysts. On reasons for the second quarter report, CEO Darren Woods said second quarter results were primarily impacted by significant scheduled maintenance undertaken to support operational integrity. However, the oil and gas company recorded 92 cents per share against the $1.34, which analysts also estimated. It has also recorded a net income of $3.95 billion, lower than the expected $5.35 billion. This makes the third of 4 quarters for which the company failed to meet up with the consensus earnings estimate. The chief executive officer of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and Facebook Incorporated were on Friday slammed with a lawsuit after a nosedive earning announced by Facebook Inc., stating that they had wiped out about $123 billion valued shares. The complainants, James Koukouris, who is a shareholder, filed the suits in Manhattan federal court accusing Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg and David Werner, the chief financial officer, of making statements which he termed misleading regarding the slowing revenue growth, failing operational margin, and active user decline. Still ahead on Plus TV News is our roundup on sports. Do stay with us, we'll be back in a moment. And in sports, Liverpool Football Club scored 3 second-half goals as they wrapped up their pre-season tour of America on Saturday with a 4-1 victory over Manchester United at the Michigan Stadium. Xherdan Shaqiri put a stamp on his Liverpool debut with a spectacular bicycle kick goal to open the scoring in the International Champions Cup match in front of 101,000 seaters. In front of a crowd of 101,000. Shaqiri of Switzerland was one of 5 recent high-profile signings which saw Liverpool shell out more than £200 million in an attempt to close the gap on Premier League champions Manchester City. It was a nice way for the Reds to finish up their US exhibition swing as they now travel back to Merseyside before continuing their preparations for the season with a training camp in France beginning next week. Formula One Championship leader Lewis Hamilton put Mercedes on pole position for the Hungarian Grand Prix on Saturday amidst thunder, lightning and plumes of spray. Valtteri Bottas made it a Mercedes front row lockout for Sunday's race when conditions are expected to brighten up, with the title rival Sebastian Vettel only 4th and behind Ferrari teammate Kimi Raikkonen. Hamilton now has 77 career poles and 5 this season, but Saturday's qualifying went against the odds with the opportunity emerging as the heavens opened up. It's great for the team to have a 1-2. We couldn't have expected this, said the 33-year-old Lewis Hamilton, who leads Vettel by 17 points after 11 races in the battle of the 4 times world champions. And that's our news roundup of events. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines. Do join us. I am Benga Aborowa. Have a nice day.